Joining us now exclusively in his first TV interview since the report was released, the House Intelligence Committee Chairman, Democratic Congressman Adam Schiff of California. Mr. Chairman, thanks so much for joining us. And I know you want to see the full unredacted Mueller report, but let's focus in first on the information that was just made public, and there's a ton of information in that 400-page report. What's the most important new information that you learned today?
Well, look, I think the most important top line is the one you've been discussing, and that is that the Russians engaged in this sweeping and systematic effort to interfere in our election, and did so not neutrally. They did so to help a person in Donald Trump. This was appointed in favor of one campaign and against the other. And so all the presidents dissembling about whether Russians interfered or how they did or whether they preferred him, special counsel came out unequivocally and said, yes, they did, and it was to help the Trump campaign. It also itemizes in far greater detail than has been public thus far any number of interactions between Trump campaign people and the Russians. We learned, for example, for the first time that the campaign through Manafort was providing polling data over an extended period of time to someone linked to Russian intelligence. We learned more granularity about the Trump Tower meeting in New York and the president's efforts to mislead the country about what that meeting was about. And, of course, most significantly, we learned about numerous acts of obstruction of justice by the President of the United States. And I completely concur with the analysis you've been hearing that Mueller seems to have wanted that issue to go to Congress. Bill Barr arrogated unto himself the decision that the President could not be held liable for obstruction of justice. That was his appointed task. That's why he was picked by Donald Trump, and he did what he was appointed to do. And I think in his characterization, in his mischaracterization of the special counsel's work, both on obstruction and on conspiracy, Bill Barr has done a grave disservice to the country. So what do you think should happen to him? Well, look, there's not much that can happen to him. I mean, he's doing what he's doing because he pleases Donald Trump. That is sadly his aim. He views himself as the lawyer for the president, not the lawyer for the people of the United States of America. And that's the way to longevity in the Trump administration, which is you sing along the president's songbook, whether that is making bogus claims of spying on the president's campaign or making bogus claims of no collusion. In fact, Bob Mueller was quite explicit that he didn't reach whether collusion occurred, as that term is known colloquially, only whether he could prove a criminal conspiracy. In his attempts to sugarcoat what the president did and gloss over the president's refusal to cooperate with the investigation, refusal to testify verbally, his efforts to try to get others to mislead the country. I think Barr showed that he should have never been confirmed for the job in the first place. You've been investigating Russian interference in the U.S. presidential election for 2 years. Did anything that you read, and I assume you went through most of the 400 pages so far, really surprise you? I can't say that it really surprised me because although I certainly learned new things in the report, and I'm still going through it, I've gone through much of it but have more work to do, what we see that we didn't know before is so consistent with what we did know, and that is that the Trump campaign people were more than willing to have the help of a hostile foreign power. They were open to it. It's quite striking to see in black and white the special counsel, for example, say that in answer to this offer of help with dirt on Hillary Clinton, the president's son said, yes, he would accept that help. And with respect to all of these contexts, whether it's the details around the early interactions with George Papadopoulos, in which a member of the Trump campaign was first made aware in April of 2016 that the Russians had thousands of Clinton emails and that they could help the campaign by anonymously releasing them. From that point to Trump, egging the Russians on to hack these emails, celebrating WikiLeaks dozens of times on the campaign trail, we see this pattern now in far greater detail of a campaign willing to act unethically, immorally, unpatriotically, whether it was a crime or not. The president didn't have a news conference at the White House before he left the White House for Florida, but he did just tweet this. Among other things, he said, I had the right to end the whole witch hunt if I wanted. I could have fired everyone, including Mueller, if I wanted. I chose not to. I had the right to use executive privilege.
I didn't. What's your reaction?
Well, from the first to the end, false statements. When he says that he chose not to end the Mueller investigation, that wasn't for lack of trying on his part. And what we learned from Mueller was, in fact, he wanted McGahn to fire him, and McGahn refused. So yet it's quite telling on the day of the issuance of this report, the president again making false statements that are directly contradicted by Bob Mueller.
Democrats have been pushing to see the full unredacted report. You're the chairman of the Intelligence Committee. You're going to get almost all of it except for some grand jury information, we're told. What key information was missing from the version, do you believe, that was made public today?
Well, you can see there were sections of the report that were redacted that discuss why the special counsel made certain prosecutorial decisions, particularly around WikiLeaks and the Trump campaign. Now, that may go to the ongoing case against Roger Stone, but there are other sections that are redacted that concern other interactions between the Trump campaign, some around that Trump Tower New York meeting, some involve grand jury material. We're going to need to get all of that information. If Barr was sincere about wanting to be transparent, and clearly he's not, he would have sought the court's permission to share that. Nonetheless, we're going to make sure that we get it. One other very important point, though, Wolf, is the special counsel makes it clear that there was a counterintelligence investigation that was ongoing as well, and those findings, some of them are not included in this report. We need to see all of those findings. We need to see them unredacted, but we also need to see those that didn't even make the report, because that goes to information as to whether the president or people around him are acting in Russia's interest and not our own interest, whether it's because of financial interest in wanting to build towers in Moscow or for any other reason. The American people and the Congress need to know.
Mueller doesn't appear to have pursued some areas of high interest, including the president's finances, his business dealings. What are the big open questions that you and your committee, the Intelligence Committee, are hoping to investigate?
Well, that's absolutely right. And it's clear, because the special counsel sets out his scope in the beginning of the report, that at least the special counsel viewed as beyond his efforts. But nonetheless, if there are other financial entanglements between the president and Russia, if the Russians were laundering money through the business, or if others like Kushner were seeking business or financing in the Gulf or elsewhere, and that has influenced U.S. policy vis-a-vis Russia or Saudi Arabia or Qatar or anywhere else, obviously we need to know, because it means we need to take steps to protect the country. So those areas of investigation are ongoing because, among other things, they simply